Round 4 at Kyalami. We showed you highlights of first heat action on the day. Now let's get back to the action for second heat and the main races in the various categories.
It was a beautiful, clear winter's day at AA Kyalami, which saw round 4 of Total Super Series 97. The series has taken off this year with massive crowds turning up at the circuits to watch the greatest short-circuit racing ever seen in South Africa. With the first heats in the different categories already completed, all was set for the second heats and the finals. In the super special category, the first heat was won by championship leader Bux Carolyn in his Haas Chenoweth, ahead of reigning champion Wolf-Peter Fumfai, but the start of the second heat almost spelled disaster for Fumfai when he couldn't get off the line. Carolyn immediately took the lead and started to open up a gap from the word go, while behind him a huge battle for second started to develop between virtually the whole of the rest of the field, led by Max Moore in his WPP Footloose. Moore was being chased by the likes of Ericsson in his VW Magnum, Bevan Berthold in his Grez Spider and Paul Kutzer in his Orco. Jackie Hubert in his VW Beetle 4x4 Turbo wasn't having a good day and was starting to fall behind. While Carolyn was pulling away at the front, the battle for second was starting to settle down as the drivers watched out for any weaknesses in the opposition's armory. Carolyn won the first qualifying heat convincingly, and the power and handling of his Haas Chenoweth was clearly a cut above the rest. Behind him, Moore was still being followed by Ericsson in his VW Magnum. Ericsson was spectacular around the fast sweeps, but Bevan Berthold in his Grez Spider was even more so. Klaasen was chasing hard too. Moore in second, Ericsson, then Berthold and Klaasen. These four were really giving the crowd something to cheer about. For former Stanley Group N driver Bevan Berthold, number 13 could still turn out to be lucky. Carolyn still extending his lead, but then this huge battle for second position. None of these drivers could be sure of their positions as the slippery surface made mistakes very easy to make. Moore in his WPP Footloose, then Ericsson in his VW Magnum and the hard-charging Bevan Berthold trying to force Ericsson into a mistake. Klaasen in his Dart Toyota was starting to fall back. And Berthold is through, around the outside of Ericsson and into third position behind Moore. But that's Carolyn. He stopped, so we'll have a new leader. Max Moore has taken the lead, but now he's under pressure from Berthold, who's literally almost flying. Carolyn is back in the race, but behind the whole field. These races are 8 minutes plus 1 lap, so he doesn't have a lot of time to make up. The yellow flag is out. And it's Berthold. He's definitely out of the race. It's the last lap and Carolyn has made an incredible comeback, fighting his way through the field to take the lead from Moore. Carolyn makes it 2 in a row, taking the overall win. Fumfai recovered and caught up to finish 5th behind Kutzer and Ericsson, while Klaasen completed the top 6. Second man in the championship, Jackie Hubert, failed to score for the second time on the day.
Bux, the circuit commentators are calling you Caroline. Was that a question of Sweet Caroline?
I don't know. They obviously don't know so well, these guys. But that was the car's lekker. We had a few problems with the wiring problem, but I sorted that out. The car went well and we had a good race. I really enjoyed it. The car's going lekker. Had great fun.
To the juniors now, and the main race of the hour. On lap 2, he was trailing Neville Bradshaw on his Suzuki and reigning champion Jaco Wolmerans on his Honda. The championship leader had some hard work to do if he wanted to hold on to his unbeaten record this year. Bradshaw was benefiting from the fact that Wolmerans and Swanepoel were keeping each other busy and was pulling a slight cut. Wayne Haley on his Honda was 4th, followed by Vaughan de Buisson, Mario Foster, Lawrence Mahoney and Grant Wheeler. Bradshaw in the lead, coming up the hill, but behind him Swanepoel has had a good exit through the left-hander and was pulling up next to Wolmerans. The Honda rider had no answer as Swanepoel moved up into second. Now he was setting off in pursuit of Bradshaw, who knew that he was going to have a fight in his hands to hold on to his lead. Unfortunately, the end of the road for Michael Koch on his Kawasaki, but in the front, the battle for the lead was hotting up. Swanepoel has caught up with Bradshaw. He tries him on the inside, but the Suzuki rider will have nothing to do with it. On the inside again, and this time he does it. But Bradshaw desperately holds on to his line for the right-hander to come. Yes, now he's through. Garrett Swanepoel takes the lead on his Elna Fox Kawasaki, but Bradshaw is not about to give up and he's staying glued to the rear wheel of the championship leader. Oh, somebody's down. He'll have to get out of the way quickly, and he seems to be a little shaken. But Swanepoel doesn't get shaken easily. In fact, he's shaken off all signs of the opposition and was cruising to the end. Lawrence Mahoney has crashed out of the race, but no such problems for Garrett Swanepoel, who goes on to take his 12th consecutive victory of the season and maintains his unblemished record. Swanepoel and Bradshaw finished in that order for the day too. In the Super Quad category, Jacques Struwweg and Evan Hutchison shared the victories in the first two races, so the main event would settle the overall winner for the day. 3 laps into the race, Hutchison was chasing Clayton du Plessis for the lead. Du Plessis had a second and a third in the previous 2 races and was determined to hold on to his lead. Hutchison, the championship leader, was finding the opposition tougher as the season progressed. All the riders in this category are on 200cc Yamaha blasters, so only the preparation of the machines and the skill of the riders make a difference. Jacques Struwweg was starting to make his presence felt as he moved past Derek Robertson into third. Du Plessis, Hutchison and now Struwweg. It's going to be between these 3 for victory. Through the flat-out left-hander just after the finish line, and Du Plessis was starting to open a gap. Ominously for Hutchison, Struwweg was getting closer all the time. On the wet and slippery surface, these machines are very difficult to drive smoothly and fast. Struwweg wasn't having everything his own way as Robertson was fighting back and pushing as hard as he could. Still Du Plessis and Hutchison, then this battle for third between Struwweg and Robertson. On the downhill, Struwweg clearly enjoyed an advantage and he was starting to pull away. But Hutchison couldn't care less. He was itching to get into the lead. Du Plessis, however, wasn't going to let him have it on a tray. The only clean man in the field was the leader from the start, Clayton du Plessis. But that's about to change as Evan Hutchison moves past to go into first. Now Hutchison, who's been dominating this category this year in his customary first position. Then Du Plessis and in a distant third, Jacques Struwweg. But his fitness has always counted in his favor. Great racing and a crowd enjoying themselves, the ingredients of a fun day at AA Kyalami. Not too much joy for Clayton du Plessis though, as a few laps later, Jacques Struwweg moves past and into second place. Not without a fair amount of coercion though. With the slower riders being lapped now, the front runners had their work cut out and the order was Hutchison, Struwweg and Du Plessis. Struwweg didn't find it too difficult, his tremendous turn of speed hurtling him past the back marker. The last lap board is out and Struwweg knows that it is probably not going to be possible to catch Hutchison for the lead. But with Hutchison finishing only in the middle of the field in the first heat, Struwweg knew that he stood a good chance of taking the overall win for the day. It was difficult to distinguish the riders from each other as they came up the hill towards the finish line, but the order was still Hutchison, Struwweg and Du Plessis. And that's the way they finished, with Struwweg taking the overall win for the day, followed by Brandon Martin after consistent top 4 finishes in the 3 races and Clayton du Plessis.
Even a better finish to the day than the start, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately in the first race, in the first corner, I was knocked out off the track into the trees, and by the time I got my back on the track, the pack was gone, so there was no chance of catching them. Luckily in the second heat we got a win, and the last heat we've also got another win, but we'll have to see how the points work out for the day.
Back to the two-wheelers now, and the two qualifying heats in the open category were both won by Ian Topless on his Elna Fox Kawasaki. But it was Gary Peterson on his Team Brasco FMF Racing Kawasaki that had the best start in the main race, shooting away from the rest of the field. Peterson quickly established a lead and was chased by Glenn Tuntum on his Honda and Ian Topless on his Elna Fox Kawasaki, while some of the other riders got stuck in a high-speed traffic jam. Championship leader Gary Peterson is known as one of the hardest men in the business, and he knew that opening up a commanding lead over second-placed man in Topless would be very handy indeed. With Topless chasing hard, Peterson also knew that his own fitness was a little bit suspect, his 2-week-old firstborn keeping him away from the practice track. Behind the leader, Topless was pulling away from Tuntum in third, while a huge battle for fourth was developing between Gary Lipchik, Mark Myron, Alfie Cox, Alan Julian, Grant Bloomfield and Greg Aspinall. This was typical of the type of close racing that Total Super Series 97 has produced this year, and the Sixth Son had the crowd on their feet as the positions changed through virtually every corner. At the front, Gary Peterson was still holding on to his lead, but he knew that Topless would start catching him pretty soon. Topless fell very hard in the 200cc race, but it didn't seem to bother him too much. Glenn Tuntum was being caught and passed by Gary Lipchik on his Pro Cycles Honda. The battle for fourth had become the battle for fifth. Alan Julian on his Shell Racing Honda had moved up to fifth, ahead of the Panasonic Kawasaki of Greg Aspinall. Julian and Aspinall were sometimes right over the edge as they swapped places. Alfie Cox was an interested onlooker on his 300cc AGA Panasonic Castrol KTM. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead was hotting up as Topless caught up with Peterson, the two of them pulling clear from the rest of the field. Third was still Lipchik, but Aspinall overdid it and allowed Julian to catch up again. Have you ever seen someone getting up and go this quickly? Peterson was passing back markers by now, his aggressive style ensuring him a quick and safe passage. But in the background, Topless was still lurking. Peterson is a past master of racing under pressure and was enjoying himself as Topless threw himself at every corner, taking different lines in an effort to close the gap. And it was working. Now, all eyes were on this intriguing battle as Topless slowly but steadily ate into the gap between himself and Gary Peterson. Was Peterson tiring? Evidently, Topless was still as fit as a fiddle, the injuries he sustained in the 200cc race not seeming to bother him at all. But Peterson knew he had the race under control and that it wasn't necessary to go any faster than to keep Topless behind him. Although there was virtually nothing between the two throughout the race, Peterson eventually took it, upsetting the pattern of victories that Topless had laid down in the first two races. Topless took the overall honours for the day, closing the championship gap between Peterson and himself by 2 points, while the main event winner was second overall for the day.
You know, I thought Ian would have a little bit of a disadvantage because he crashed in the 200 class, but didn't turn out that way. And I got a good start. I was pulling away. Then I just started making mistakes and they'd ordered the track and I was trying different lines and I went back to my old line and I maintained. He passed me there and actually upped my pace a little bit and I see he couldn't hang on to me, so I'm still there.
Introducing new Dual Advance with unique moving blade technology.
In the pro quad category, Jacques Struwweg had a perfect day with victories in both qualifying heats, and the question was, could anyone beat him this time? Well, he had a great start in the main event, taking the lead with a distinguishing little flag at the back of his Honda. Chased by the pack of the first lap, one of his main concerns was relieved when defending champion Wikus van Deventer was punted off the track behind him. This would leave the little legend from Northwest out of the results of this race. With Struwweg and the rest of the field disappearing in the distance, marshals were quickly at hand to assist the stricken rider, who suffered a broken elbow that could end his season. Lap 3 now, and Struwweg had extended his lead. Second was Mark Breckel on his Team Brasco FMF Yamaha, and third, championship leader Christopher van der Merwe on his Joburg Yamaha Banshee. Van der Merwe was second in both qualifying heats and was trying to improve on this, but Breckel was in his way. Struwweg, who raced in all 3 races of both the quad categories, was demonstrating his fitness in the best way possible, and he was also getting used to his new Jojo Tanks Honda 330. The battle for second was a tough one between Breckel and van der Merwe. Struwweg comfortably in the lead ahead of Mark Breckel and an increasingly frustrated van der Merwe, who just didn't seem able to find a way past. Struwweg seemed unaffected by anything going on behind him, while Breckel was determined to ward off any advances from van der Merwe. Struwweg was demonstrating his smooth and very fast racing style to its best advantage. Breckel goes wide, and this is the opportunity that van der Merwe has been waiting for. Sustained pressure in any form of motorsport usually brings about the desired result, and this time it was van der Merwe who benefited from this maxim. Struwweg seemingly untouchable in the lead, but now he had the championship leader bearing down on him. It would however take a special effort from the Yamaha rider to take the lead, or a major disaster for the Honda man. Mark Breckel was also still in the picture. Let's see what the gap looks like. Van der Merwe hasn't really made any impression on Struwweg's lead, and he seemed a little worried about the close proximity of one of the Breckel brothers. David Parkinson was a distant fourth. But van der Merwe had the bit between his teeth, as he knew that his championship lead over the third place Struwweg would decrease somewhat should he finish behind him. But to no avail, as Struwweg took his third victory in a row in this category, making sure of the overall victory. Van der Merwe, with 3 second placings, was second for the day, increasing his championship lead over Wikus van Deventer by 13 points.
Het gaan goed. Ek het laas keer by Kyalami het ek bietjie probleme gehad. Dis uitgesorteer. Kyk maar vorentoe. My punte is 'n bietjie agter, maar
Voel jy nou meer thuis op die Honda?
baie meer. Ek het 1 of 2 lesse geleer vandag, maar dit sal ek altyd by my hou.
To many people, the highlight of Total Super Series 97, the Super Truck and Production Vehicle category. Paulo Piazza-Musso won the first qualifying heat in his Creepy Cordy Ford Courier, but a puncture put him out of the second race, which was won by Cassie Coetzee in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. Piazza-Musso and his teammate Craig Draper immediately shot into the lead in the main event, but Coetzee made sure that he was right there. This is the view from Cliff Barker's Pennzoil Land Rover as Coetzee moves by in pursuit of the leader. Barker is holding onto the inside line for the right-hander, but Draper moves past into third. Just see what it takes as the leaders disappear in the distance, while Barker has to contend with Henry Zermatten's Chev on the downhill. Piazza-Musso on the left of your screen, Coetzee on the right. In the first heat, Coetzee had to start from the back of the grid, and because he was held up, he couldn't challenge for the lead. In the second heat, Piazza-Musso's puncture robbed the spectators of another potential classic battle, but Coetzee's maiden win in the Hilux took a lot of pressure to perform off him, and now, with the two locked in a battle for the lead, the spectators could finally see the two head-to-head. With less pressure to imitate American Rod Millen's winning performance in the Toyota's debut appearance at the previous AA Kyalami meeting, Coetzee could now race for the pure enjoyment of it, although Piazza-Musso was going to make it as unpleasant for Coetzee as possible. These so-called stadium off-road races are custom built for this kind of track, and the drivers were reveling in the racing. Piazza-Musso's Creepy Corley Ford seemed to slide around much more than the Castrol Toyota, although it did seem to have a power advantage. Still, Paulo Piazza-Musso in the lead, Cassie Coetzee chasing hard. Piazza Musso had had a busy weekend, returning only the previous day from competing in the VW Algoa Rally in the Sasol Ford Escort, which he unfortunately couldn't finish because of mechanical maladies. Coetzee is a former rallyist who has been concentrating on off-road racing for the last number of years, and he was glad to get involved in a Total Super Series car to enjoy some close racing. That is exactly what he got. Oh, and a moment there for Piazza Musso. He slows down, goes wide, Coetzee is right next to him, and yes, he's through. Coetzee takes the lead as they race up the hill. Sustained pressure, once again creating an opportunity. And just listen at the crowd as Coetzee comes around the corner in first position. Piazza Musso now trying to stay in contact with Coetzee as the sun sets over AA Kyalami. Back with Cliff Barker in the Pennzoil Land Rover as he goes past the slowing down Richard Leak in the other Castrol Hilux in the production vehicle category. Let's just enjoy the ride. Still, the battle for the lead. Piazza Musso is not a man who gives up easily, and the sustained pressure trick can work for him too, as long as you don't put too much pressure on yourself in the process, of course. This is a man hard at work. Coming towards the end of the race as the Toyota-Ford battle continues. Coetzee seems to have opened up a slight gap. Cliff Barker again, and the Pennzoil Land Rover is in fourth position behind Craig Draper's creepy crawly Ford. He's coming up to lap Henry Kirstein's Volkswagen Porsche, who's lying third in the production category behind Henry Zermatten and Frank de Greer. Now Coetzee is lapping the Chev of Linton Draper, fifth in the super truck category. They've got one lap to go, and Coetzee is looking at his second victory for the day. Piazza Musso also has to find a way past Draper, and it seems that he's lost contact. They're safely through, and that's in fact the way they finished. And elated Coetzee wins his second race of the day, gaining overall victory. While in the production category, Zermatten takes his first victory of the day. Frank de Greef was second, but won overall honours.
Cassie, baie mooi, jou eerste algehele oorwinning hierdie jaar, hoe voel jy?
Ek is so trots op dit en ek is so bly ek het 'n voertuig, my Hilux, en ek het geweet ons kan dit doen, ten spyte van die probleme wat die oppositie gehad het. Ons is almal 'n skoner aan dit, ek vertrou in my voertuig en in my spanne, my diensvoertuig en my borg, ek is baie dankbaar daaroor.
Well, let's take a look at our week